Batra Daf Yod Aleph, 7 lines down. Tanura Banan. Sorry, 14 lines down. Tanura Banan. Famous story, great attitude towards tzedakah. Ma'aseh b'Munbaz HaMelech. There was a story about King Munbaz. He got rid of all the hoarding that his fathers and previous kings did. In the years of famine, he gave it to the people who needed food. Even his family got on top of him and started yelling at him. They told him, your fathers kept on adding to their wealth and added to their fortune. You just got rid of everything. You just destroyed the work of multiple generations of kings. He says, my family, he said to them, my fathers hoarded for this world. I hoarded for the next world. Furthermore, my fathers hoarded in a place where it's not secure because you never know what can happen here. But because I gave tzedakah, I hoarded it in a place that's safe. My father's hoarded something that doesn't produce dividends. I hoarded stuff that give dividends because I gave tzedakah. More. When my fathers hoarded money. I hoarded souls. I saved people's lives. My fathers hoarded for other people to use. But that's mean I hoard for myself. And then he said, I hope fathers hoard for this world. I hoard for the next world. Okay. Next part of the Mishnah said, whether or not when a person is considered part of the city to start paying expenses. We mentioned 12 months, unless he bought a house, then he's automatically considered. Matnit in our Mishnah, they don't call Rashbag, it's not like Rashbag. Tanya Batra says, Rashbag Omer, Im Kana Ba Karga Kosher, if you buy any amount of land, you're automatically considered part of the city. So we see that you don't have to necessarily buy a house, you can buy any amount of land. Only if you bought a piece of land that's eligible for a house, you have to consider part of the land. So even Rashbag goes against himself. So what's the case? Gemara says, two different Tanaim quoting Rashbag in two different opinions, whether it has to be a house eligible land or any amount. Okay, Mishnah. You don't force someone to split a courtyard. Unless you have 4 amot, enough for each side. The minimum courtyard that you force someone else to split is 8 amot. You don't have to divide a field unless there's 9 kav, which is size of property, for each partner, which is 18 total. Rabbi Damir says, 9.5 each. Look, the garden, unless there's a half a cup for each. Rabbi Akiva says, Bet Rova, not even a half, you only need a quarter for each in order to force for a vegetable garden. You don't divide like a massive store or like a whole, like a mansion. You don't have to divide you can't force someone to divide a birdhouse or a shirt. Not a bathhouse, not a place that has like an olive press, not an irrigated field. You can't force someone to do it unless you have enough for each partner, meaning you can't divide a shirt in half because that's not going to be anything. So to the rest of those examples. This is the rule. Anything you divide and it still retains its original name. If you could split a shirt in half and make 2 shirts, that's fine. You could split a field in half and still have 2 fields, fine. Split a bathhouse in half and you have 2 bathhouses, that's fine. But if you can't do that, it won't retain the original name. Then you can't force a person to split it. When does that apply? It's only when you're trying to force the other guy because they both don't want to do it. But if they're willing to do it, I feel that you could divide any amount of property. Because you mentioned earlier, you don't have partners, even if you want to split, you cannot split scrolls of Kedusha, Sefer Torah, and Sefarim. We mentioned 4 amot each. That excludes the area by the entrance. Because the area of the entrance, you have to have 4 amot in front to give people a space to unload, like an area for unloading. You don't divide a jointly owned hatzer against someone else's will. 8 for each. So now, why is it like that? We said it has before. Why are you saying that it's besides for the four each for the chaser, there also has to be four each for the entrance for unloading. Because some people learn this concept via contradiction to the Mishnah, not like a proof. Our Mishnah says you can't split the chaser unless it's four each. The Brita says and the Brita says eight each. How's that possible? And the answer is that besides the four amot for the actual chaser, you have to have four amot as well for the entrances for unloading. Next, Maravuna. A chaser is divided according to the entrances, which means if a guy has if a guy had a house with multiple entrances, then the fact that he has, let's say there's two houses opening up at the chaser, one house has two entrances, one house has one entrance. So the person that gets two entrances will get 2/3 of the chaser versus the guy with the one entrance will have only 30%. But Rav Hizda says no, you give four amot for each entrance. And after the entrances, you split the remainder of the courtyard equally. The entrances get four. This one guy has one entrance, the other guy has two entrances. The other guy has one till Abamot takes only four. The other guy has two entrances. And the rest they divide equally, like Rav Chisda said. Next part. Let's say this guy had an entrance that was 8 amot wide already. He takes the 8 amot seemingly for the entrance, and then 4 amot in the courtyard. So now, what does that mean? 4 amot. What do you mean 4 amot in the courtyard? Why is he automatically getting 4 amot? No. נוטל 8 אמות באורך החצר ו4 אמות רוחב החצר. When it says 8 amot and 4 amot, it's talking about the same thing. It's 8 along the length of the courtyard in front of the massive entrance that he has. And how far does it go? The width-wise is 4 amot. He's not getting extra property for the entrance. There's a field with a pit, a border of date stones. They used to gather the date stones to make manure or like fertilizer. The owner has 4 amot on each side of the pit for usage automatically. That only applies if there was no designated spot for it. But if there was already a designated entrance for it, he only has those 4 amot and not all around. A pavilion, it's like a structure that has 4 poles, let's say, like a gazebo with no walls. So it doesn't have 4 amot in front of it. Tell me why? In general, you need 4 amot in front of your house by Hatzer to unload your donkey. But over here, you could just go inside the structure and unload there, therefore you don't need extra space. The question. This is over here to the gates of the houses, the gates of these pavilions, these gazebos. You do have extra 4 amot outside. Question against Rav Huna. It's referring to the pavilion, the gazebo for like a bet midrash. They have walls, therefore you need a space outside. If that's the case, it's pashut. That's considered like a house, and therefore it should be like any other case. Why do you have to teach me that? Referring to a Roman gazebo, a Roman pavilion. The Roman pavilion had lower walls. And the Hidush is, you might think that it's not considered enough of a wall to be considered outside. And you could bring it inside. A porch, a pavilion, like I mentioned, and a gallery. Gallery is like a type of like porch on top of the second floor that they used to stand there. They all get 4 amot to unload. Therefore, if there's 5 apartments in the second floor opening onto that gallery, onto that balcony, and they all use the same staircase, they all have to split the 4 amot at the front. They don't each get 4 amot. The chicken coop, do you get 4 amot for loading and unloading like everything else or not? The reason why you need 4 amot for unloading, because you need to unload an animal. Over here, the chickens just jump over the small wall and they're going themselves into the coop. They don't need an animal to unload them, and therefore you don't get 4 amot. The reason why over here we're talking about all these previous cases, the reason why we're talking about as if we don't know if there's an entrance or not, because these are usually referring to cases of inheritance where the children received it from the fathers and therefore they're deciding what to do with it now and whether or not they get automatic for Rahmat in it. Okay. A building, half of it is covered with a roof and half is not covered with a roof, and the entrance opens into a chatzer, into a courtyard. Does he get 4 amot or not? Right, so picture like a half roofed house. Amarla, and everyone doesn't get from not only is for sure you don't need to teach me if the covering is inside, meaning that the opening of the house is by the part that's uncovered. Because in that case, he could go to the uncovered part and unload there. Even if the covering is in the outside, it's still able to go to you still should go to the uncovered part, which is further inside, and unload there, and therefore we don't have to give you extra for unload. If one resident of an alleyway, right? So Mavoy is an alleyway. The way they used to have it is there used to be like a picture, like a square, and usually multiple houses. Each house or two houses would share a hatzerot, and the hatzerot, the courtyards, would lead into a mutual alleyway. In Brooklyn, sometimes they have these alleyways where driveways are. They have an alleyway, the whole block shares this alleyway for the driveways, and you could drive down to your house and pull in. So similarly over here, you have your own courtyard, you own your backyard, and then the backyards open up into this mavoy, the alleyway. So let's say this guy wants to open up his alleyway to open to the back, to the mavoy behind him. The other residents can stop him from opening it, or they cannot stop him. They can stop him because it's increasing foot traffic in their area that they didn't sign up for. If let's say they used to have whenever soldiers used to pass by cities, the soldiers would force people to take them in to stay the night, for example. So the you divide it according to the number of people in the building, or the you go according to entrances. The difference is you have an apartment building with one entrance, but there's 1,000 people inside. Do they have to take in more people or not? The fiat you divide according to people in the building, not the entrances. Says if there's fertilizer that people throw out their waste till it turns to fertilizer, that is divided by the entrances per house. But the quartering, the hosting of soldiers is by the people, like apartments. If, right, so we mentioned the alleyways. Let's say one of the guys in the second driveway leading into the alleyway decides, you know what, I want to put a wall there. The people of the Mavoy can stop him. Because now, in order to pass through, they would have to walk around the entire area to pass through to their house. So now, there's cases, let's say there's 5 courtyards opening up at a single Mavoy. The first, right, we're going to call them, when you say you're pulling into the alleyway to go to the 5 houses, the guy who's closest is number 1, and 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 is all the way in. So the guy who's out, the first one, can only use his first one because he has no reason to go to 2, 3, 4, 5 because he pulls into his driveway first. And then everybody, the rest of them, can do number 2. 2 can only use 1 and 2. He can only use 1 and 2, right? Because it makes sense. He has to pass number 1, therefore he can use that area. And he has access to himself, therefore he can do number 1 and 2. Therefore, number 5, he can use only for himself. And because he passes through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, he can use all of them. Seemingly that he can have his own rite of passage. If he wants to put something up, he can. Against Rahuna is that everybody has a right to the mavoy and could stop someone from building walls. Tonight, if one of the guys in the mavoy wants to reverse his entrance to the back, they could stop him. Let's say it's already closed. Now he wants to open it. And they can't stop him from opening it. Rajba Omer, his opinion is that the 5 courtyards that open up the single alleyway, all of them can use the entire mavoy together. So the Gemara says, 1 second. Why did we just say there's 5 courtyards? Who mentioned courtyards? The Gemara says, you have to explain missing words. You have to explain it. Additionally, 5 courtyards have a total avoid that open up to a single alleyway. Everybody could use the number 1 spot. Only number 1 can only use number 1. Everybody has access to all 5. You want to put a basketball hoop at number 5, even though you live in number 1, you can. That holds like Rav Huna, Father Rav Shba, you have access everywhere. And therefore you could stop someone from building something. Amar more. We mentioned earlier that if it was the original door was sealed and you want to open it, and they can't stop it because you already acquired the rights. Amar only applies that he didn't tear down the frame of the door because that he didn't like make it permanent. Once he makes it permanent, tearing down the frame by the entrance, they can stop him because they seemingly were under the impression it wasn't being opened again because you tore down the frame and you sealed it. But if you only sealed it but kept the frame there, then you could reopen it later. I'm have a proof for you from a Braita. The house's entrance was sealed. He has 4 amot in front of the entrance as if it was still there. Once it tears down, in the loses this 4 amot. Similarly, kever shebetchol satum. If there was a kever, a grave, where like it's like a structure. If the entrance is sealed, doesn't make people tamei outside because it's not considered part of the kever. Once you tear down the frame of that door and you seal it completely in from the outside as well, that now is considered one big ohel, which is parasha called ohel, right? It's considered one big tent or under one framework, and therefore you become tamei. Bed bites into my house with the body inside that is sealed. Does not make it right tamei. Bahas not one to two on the frame. That makes everybody tamei because now you made it under one single roof. If there are alleyways in the city that are open to one end and lead to another city, like shortcuts, people want to close it off to stop people from passing through to go to the city, they can stop them because they already established a right. That is not only if there's no other entrance, even if it's another entrance and it's just one shortcut, they can't just tell them stop using this way, go around, because once public property, public people, the public has established a private shortcut, you can't stop it. Once the public has chosen a path, you can't stop it.